1 second, the recording should be up, and you can take it over. Okay.
Okay, we're good to go?
Yes, you can take it over, Zach. Thank you.
All right. So the goal of getting certified is to go from your textbook knowledge of how GCP works to being able to gain expertise in the topic, as well as excel in your job roles when working with Google Cloud. So in general, what they're looking for with the associate level certification is 6 months experience working with Google Cloud, or the knowledge that's equivalent to that. So what we're going to be going over today is the certification overview. We're going to do a spotlight on the Associate Cloud Engineer, which is what we're all studying for. We can get a sneak peek of the study group topics. We then have certification prep tips and tricks, as well as to review some sample questions and go over next steps. So the overview for the Google Cloud certification journey. So the first thing we have is the study group, which is what we had on Wednesday, which are weekly live sessions for 6 weeks to go through content and exam prep. We then have on-demand resources, which is the Cloud Skills Boost, as well as the community forum and Slack channels that we have. Within this, you'll be able to then earn skill badges for each quest that you complete. The one that we're mainly going through here is going to be the infrastructure modernization path. So this is the first one up here. But you can completely feel free to go through different Quick Labs quests for any of these other ones. It is very likely that gaining knowledge in some of these other topics will benefit you, especially regarding like Kubernetes, some of the machine learning questions, as well as working with things like BigQuery and some of the other databases that Google provides. So to spotlight on the Associate Cloud Engineer. So Google Cloud has a bunch of certifications. There are a couple certifications going from, they have the Cloud Digital Leader, which is showing basic digital literacy working with Google Cloud. They then have one associate level certification, which is for the Cloud Engineer. And then there are 8 professional levels that they have right now. So the Associate Cloud Engineer deploys applications, monitors application operations, and manages enterprise solutions. This individual is able to use Google Cloud Console and the command line interface to perform common platform-based tasks to maintain one or more deployed solutions that leverage Google managed or self-managed services on Google Cloud. One thing I try to emphasize when working with Google Cloud is there is more than one way to do anything you want. And for many operations that you're going through the Cloud Console to do, they also have the ability to do through the command line. And in many ways, you'll be able to configure resources a lot more quickly with the command line, as well as be able to then template this. So for common tasks that you're doing on Google Cloud, you can actually have automations around it, so you don't have to do as much manual work every time you need to, say, spin up an instance or view a log or a status.
Zach, I have some feedback from the chat. It's very small. Your could zoom it out a little bit. It's very small and we cannot see your screen really good.
I do not know how to fix this with a slide. This is a slideshow.
It seems like your screen, or you have a big monitor, maybe that's why it's so small for everybody else.
Yeah, I'm on my MacBook. So I'm just going from here to the presentation mode. It's full screen for me.
Yeah. It's your computer is very small. Okay. That's okay. This happens to me because I have a huge monitor, so I usually present in the smaller monitor, the huge monitor for me, but I think that's the problem. That's okay. You can continue if nothing.
Is this any better?
No. It's just the monitor that it's big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's okay. It's the window that we see very small. Don't worry.
Okay, so the Associate Cloud Engineer exam assesses your ability to set up a cloud solution environment. So within your common daily job roles, what you're going to most commonly do is provision and maintain resources. So being able to confidently build and manage resources on Google Cloud is going to be among the core things that you're going to be learning here. So next is to plan and configure a cloud solution. Deploy and implement a cloud solution, ensure successful operation of a cloud solution, and configure access and security. One of the other things that, at least when I took the test, that a lot of things that they were asking for was to have a pretty in-depth knowledge of Google's databases, their database solutions, and what would be the best solution to deploy in which context. So there's, for example, there's Cloud Bigtable, there's Data Store / Firestore, there's Spanner, there's a bunch of managed SQL solutions. And understanding the pros and cons of each for the given real world usage of this is definitely something they're going to be asking. So the learning journey here for the Associate Cloud Engineer, the pre-work is they would ideally want you to have real world hands-on experience, to review the Associate Cloud Engineer guide, and review the sample questions for the test. In my experience, the sample questions that Google provides are pretty representative of the types of questions you're going to get on the exam. So, and then this is then the syllabus for the 6 weeks of what we're going to be testing. So week 1, you're going to be learning about core infrastructure and going through hands-on practice for this. On week 2, you're going to be going to more essential cloud infrastructure foundation and take Cloud Skill Boost Quest on that. Next, you're going to be learning about core services, and then elastic Google infrastructure as far as scaling and automation. Then reliable cloud infrastructure design and practice and processes. And the last week, you'll be learning about the Kubernetes engine. Sneak peek of study group topics. So next week, we're going to learn about setting up a cloud solution environment, which includes setting up projects and billing accounts and how to properly structure them, managing billing configuration, and installing and configuring the command line interface. Again, as a daily user of GCP, my primary way of interacting with Google Cloud is through the command line interface. And then you want to learn about planning and configuring a cloud solution. So the first thing you'll learn is about planning and estimating a GCP product using the pricing calculator. This is a thing that I often use when working with clients to be able to at least get a rough estimate of what different services would cost, and pros and cons of different solutions. Planning and configuring compute resources, planning and configuring data storage options, as well as network resources. In week 3, you'll be learning about more in depth of the Google Compute Engine. So the first thing you'll learn is more advanced stuff about Google Kubernetes Engine, as well as App Engine, Cloud Run, and Cloud Functions. You will learn about implementing data solutions, deploying and implementing network solutions, working with the cloud marketplace, as well as managing infrastructure using the Cloud Deployment Manager. In week 4, you'll ensure the successful operation of a cloud solution, which will include managing Compute Engine resources, managing GKE resources, managing App Engine and Cloud Run resources, managing storage and database solutions, managing network resources, and one of my favorite topics, monitoring and logging. In week 5, you'll be learning about access and security. I know in the session we had Wednesday, I got a couple questions around how to properly structure accounts and what if you are projects, and what happens if you want to access projects from access data from one project to another. This is where managing identity access management as well as service accounts will be really important. This will allow you to have fine-grained controls of who can access what, both within a project and from outside a project. Next, we'll be viewing audit logs for a project and managed services, so you can then know who's accessing your project and when they're accessing it. In week 6, we'll be working on managing the implementation. So this is advising development and operation teams to ensure successful deployments of solutions. interacting with Google Cloud using the Google Cloud SDK, including the gcloud command, the gsutil for Google Cloud Storage, and BigQuery and BQ for doing BigQuery operations. And then you will learn about ensuring a solution and operations reliability using monitoring, logging, and profiling and alerting, deploying and release management, assisting with support of solutions in operation, and evaluating quality control measures. So next is certification tips and tricks. So the exam length is going to be 2 hours. The exam format is going to be multiple choice and multiple select questions. So honestly, this is my favorite kind of exam as opposed to open answered. They don't have any prerequisites. And again, they recommend 6 months of hands-on experience with GCP. So next we're going to build and follow a study plan, understand the business problem, and practice to learn, not just to pass. So I'm not sure exactly how we want to do these sample review questions. Linda, do you have any way you would like to do this?
I guess you can just read them, give 1 minute to everybody to think of it. This is just, I think it's just an example how the questions will be at the exam, but will not be exactly what it is, you know. It's just an example to give them.
Okay, so how about what we do is we'll read the question, we'll read the answers, the choices, and we'll let everyone answer in chat, and we'll see if we're right. So you are a project owner, and you need your coworker to deploy a new version of your application to Google App Engine. You want to follow Google's recommended practices. So which IAM roles would you grant your coworker? So in general, the goal that you're looking for here is the concept of the least amount of permissions possible to be able to get their job done. So what would that be? Would they be a project editor, an App Engine service admin, an App Engine deployer, or an App Engine code reviewer?
Maybe if you could still leave like half, you know, so they could. Okay.
Yeah, I'll leave it on this screen for.
Yeah, I will let you know when they answer in the chat. Let's give them a minute. Anyone else wants to take a peek in the chat? There is no wrong and right answer. Just go with your gut because you don't know. You will learn. So don't worry. Don't feel free to answer in the chat.
Yeah, you'll be learning more about IAM here in a couple weeks.
Now we are getting some answers in the chat. I see that there is a majority of C's in the chat. So if you go to the next slide, we see that the majority is right.
I guess when in doubt, pick C works here. And the reason for this is that an App Engine deployer will allow them to have all of the permissions required to deploy an app, but nothing more than that. So something like a project editor would allow them to actually change configuration of the project, and we wouldn't want them to do that necessarily just to be able to deploy. So next question is, you have a project using BigQuery. You want to list all BigQuery jobs for that project. You want to set this project as the default for the BQ command line tool. What should you do? A, use gcloud config set project to set the default project. Use BQ config set project to set the default project. Use gcloud generate config URL to generate a URL on the Google Cloud platform to set the default project, or use BQ generate config URL to generate a URL to Google Cloud platform console to set the default project.
As the other question, feel free to post in the chat your answer. We will give you like a minute and then you can go over.
And I will say that this is a very common type question that I've seen on the exam, is giving you basically the same command, but with different tools, and being able to understand what tool you want to use for this specific job is definitely the kind of trick questions that they're going to be asking.
Yeah, definitely. I see some answers in the chat. Others, please don't feel intimidated or something. We understand that you don't know, but it's just to take a chance. We encourage you to post your answer, and don't worry, nobody is judging you here, especially at this level. That but in general we don't judge,
Yeah, it's interesting that they're giving these questions of things that you'll definitely be learning in later weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a few answers in the chat. If you want to go to the next slide and go over the.
And the answer is A. So for this, it's definitely a trick question. You actually set your project in the gcloud command, and that configuration gets passed into your BigQuery any subsequent BQ commands.
It seems like this group is very prepared because the answers in the chat are right.
Yeah, I didn't even accidentally flip to the answer this time.
Yeah, I know.
All right, and I get a lot of questions like this on the test. Your company processes high volumes of IoT data that are timestamped. The total data volume can be several petabytes. The data needs to be written and changed at a high speed. You want to use the most performant storage option for your data. Which product would you use? Would you use Cloud Data Store, Cloud Storage, Cloud Bigtable, or BigQuery? And so the things that you'll be using to answer this question is, once you understand what these different services are and the pros and cons of each service, you should be able to come to a recommendation as to what would be the best tool for the job.
Yeah, so you can start to post in the chat. I see one answer. Let's give them another few seconds, a minute, and then we can go over the answer. I want to encourage everybody to give their answer in the chat. Don't hesitate. So anyone else? Oh, I see that they are coming here.
Should we go to the answer?
Yeah, I think the majority, it says C. So yeah, let's go to.
Yep. When in doubt, pick C. The answer is Bigtable. And the reason here is because Cloud Data Store has limits of how many times you can update a document per second. Cloud Storage also has limits of how many times you can write the same document per second. And this because it's timestamp data, doesn't really make sense to use that here. BigQuery is technically an option, but their streaming rights are definitely not very performant, whereas Bigtable with their columnar data storage definitely allows for fast writing of arbitrary keys. So your next steps is to follow your learning skill plan on Cloud Skill Boost, attend weekly study group sessions, and ask questions and contribute to the community. If you haven't already, we definitely encourage everyone to join our Slack group. We have a channel specifically for the New York chapter to study for the Associate Cloud Engineer exam. So if you do not have access to this channel, make sure that you message me, Linda, or Anna, or any of the other organizers. We can make sure that you're invited to this channel. And you'll be able to redeem your participation badges soon. All right, and that is the end of this presentation. Are there any questions?
I think now everyone can feel free to ask questions about the material or what they did in last week. Oh, you started yesterday, right, Zach? I think yesterday Anna kicked off the first session. I don't know if anyone had any blockers from yesterday. I saw that we had in the chat right about the lab that is in maintenance. If you have any other questions on your learning journey or blockers, please feel free to ask them now. Maybe should we just stop the recording so people feel more free to ask the questions, or what should we do with that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
In this way, everybody feels to talk freely. Okay, so I will turn off the recording right now. In this way, you can unmute yourself and ask your questions and get the help you need to move on with your studying journey.